Hello, and welcome to Scott's Odyssey. Pennsylvania, with its expanse of state and game land forest, is home to a lot of nature and beauty. Pennsylvania is also home to a good expanse of the Appalachian Mountain Range, which makes it extremely difficult to see that nature and beauty on a macro scale. Fortunately, we still have a viable way to take a peek at our pretty forests. Welcome to the 6-story Loop Fire Tower in State Game Lands 118, built in 1922 by the Blow and Knox Company. See you in a minute. Welcome back. If you've watched my videos before, thank you for your patronage, and if you're new to Scott's Odyssey, welcome aboard. In the early 1900s, Pennsylvania was in full recognition of the damage they had done to the environment. Miles of barren terrain where there was once large forests filled with trees the width of elephants and tall enough to touch the clouds had been turned into the endless eyesore of a scorched earth. So the creation of tree nurseries and the academic courses of forestry sprung up out of the Pennsylvania State University to combat these scars upon the land. In 1902, Pennsylvania initiated a project to replant the entire state with indigenous trees and flora to bring back what made it the Sylvania of Penn. During this process, the state had been running into issues with the new seedlings and nurseries that were planted. That issue was wildfires. You see, when your trees are knee to head high and are surrounded by grassy mountainsides, there's little to nothing that can stop the aggressive move of a fire blown by winds. They consume all of your efforts of replanting. That is, except for one thing, an early mitigation of the fire. Insert another first in the nation, the fire tower, first erected in Pennsylvania, April of 1905. As a result of the initial fire tower's success, Pennsylvania built over 450 fire observation towers during the period of 1915 through the mid-1930s. These multi-storied pillars stood watch for over 3.2 million acres of state forest and game lands during that time. Believe it or not, these towers were not only manned by forestry rangers and fire marshals, but for a time, they were also occupied by military personnel who would watch for potential invasion aircraft over certain areas. The use and purpose of the fire tower eventually faded in Pennsylvania around the late 40s and early 50s because it was much easier to just fly a plane over the state and watch for a fire. After all, the average height for flying a plane in those days was 10,000 to 12,000 feet for your cruising altitude, which allowed a single plane to make 2 passes over the state in order to see all of the forest, which made it much more efficient and significantly more cost-effective than manning 450 towers. By the 1970s, the reclamation of fire tower material and the conservational process of removing the man-made structures from the forest was in full swing, and by the beginning of the 80s, over 380 of the towers were gone. That left about 70 of the original towers built in the 1920s still standing, less than 50 on public lands, and almost all of them have been fully abandoned. With the ubiquitousness use of cell phones, cameras, satellites, and aircraft, there's little to no useful purpose for fire towers in Pennsylvania. Well, mostly. During 2016, Pennsylvania saw one of its worst wildfires in almost a century. Starting in Barrett and Price townships and burning through Monroe County and into Pike County, the Poconos lost over 8,000 acres of forest in a week. It's debated that one of the issues was underfunded fire departments and the state government claiming that the cost of $1,000 per hour of flight was too expensive to maintain for fire watch aircraft. An executive order made by State Governor Wolf in his process of defunding all parks and conservation agencies, and as many civil service and forestry departments within the state, started back during his first month of office in 2015, directly contributing to the firefighters and forestry department's inability to respond to this fire in its early stages. In a knee-jerk reaction to the fire, the state set $4.6 million on the table to help avoid this type of disaster in the future. The allocation of the money was to be put toward the bringing back of fire towers in places like the Michiana Forest and the Poconos, mainly near areas that have a large population center close by, as well as a significant amount of voters leaning toward the current administration. Remember, viewers, commenters, and haters, this is a fact of history, not a political opinion. With the allocation monies, the state has built 16 unmanned but mannable towers with cameras to watch for fires. That's 16 towers at a cost of $4.6 million that use cameras, or essentially $288,000 to put a camera 4 stories in the air to watch approximately 2 million acres of forest, because $1,000 an hour for use of a plane that can watch 16.9 million acres of forest, nearly 9 times more forest than the towers, and has a total operational cost of half the price of these 16 towers, was apparently a bad choice. Regardless of the reasons, the original fire towers of Pennsylvania are all but gone. Fortunately, there are still a few standing here and there, and we have people who seek to preserve and even maintain these towers for their historical significance and their spectacular views. Let me know in the comments below if you know of stories and locations such as the Pennsylvania fire towers. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and jump out to that Patreon to help support this channel. With a little research, you can find a lot of the towers that still stand on the public lands, and some that are even accessible, for one of the most soul-searching and challenging experiences you could ever have. To stand at the top of one of these towers is a moment of awe. They sway with the wind and creak with their age, but give testament to a view that you can only get if you were to fly above the trees. And unfortunately, almost all of these towers are on game lands and state forests, which strictly prohibit any low-flying aircraft and, more importantly, drones, which cause an unnecessary disturbance to the wildlife. Something I fully concur with, and it has been proven to wreak havoc on migratory fowl, as well as both dangerous and physically damaging around the bald eagles, especially during their mating and nesting seasons. Granted, I would love to fly my drone over some of this pristine territory and just capture the nature, or even a flock of waterfowl taking off, or that close-up shot of a herd of wild migratory animals. But such actions create an issue of disturbance that may very well cause these animals to not come back. And that would make droning of these areas extremely selfish, especially for those who, like me, love to come out to nature. As for the reality of fire towers and aircraft, with almost 17 million acres of forest restored to Pennsylvania, I think it would be prudent if we actually had both, and even made the fire towers accessible to the public for a donation or a fee box, so that we could share this beauty with those who are willing to make the hike out and into our grand forest. If you haven't already, remember to click like on this video and subscribe for more ODDySEEy stories of who we once were. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.